Vauxhall Cavalier MkI 1975–81. Launched with a 1,896cc engine as a 1976 model in November 1975, the Cavalier was a restyled version of the second-generation German Opel Ascona, which had debuted 3 months earlier in West Germany. The Ascona Cavalier was built on what GM called the U-Car platform, and the Cavalier was originally intended to have its own bodywork. It ended up with the front of an Opel Manta B model and the rear end of an Opel Ascona B model. In the end, to keep costs down, a different nose, designed by Wayne Cherry, was the only obvious styling feature to set the Vauxhall apart. The new models bore a strong visual resemblance to the 1973 OSV, Opel Safety Vehicle, project which had been seen in West Germany 2 years before. Van, pickup and estate versions were also on the drawing board, but the MK1 Cavalier was ultimately never produced in these body styles. In the meantime, estate versions of the smaller Chevette and Astra, as well as the larger Carlton, would be launched to compensate for the lack of a Cavalier estate. To begin with, the Mark I Cavalier was produced principally alongside the Ascona at the newly refurbished Opel plant in Antwerp, Belgium. Shortly after its launch, the Cavalier was tested by What Car? Magazine and received a much higher rating than the Ford Cortina Mk3 and Morris Marina against which it was tested. However, the Cortina was less than a year away from replacement, and January 1976 saw the arrival of the Chrysler Alpine, the British version of the Simca 1307, which had recently been voted European Car of the Year. In Britain, demand for the Cavalier initially outstripped supply, one of the factors in General Motors making a decision soon afterwards to add the Cavalier to its British as well as continental production lines in August 1977. The first Vauxhall Cavalier to be assembled at Vauxhall's Luton plant was driven off the production line by Eric Fountain, Vauxhall's manufacturing director, on August 26, 1977, after which the 1256cc version, assembled at Luton and using engine and transmission already familiar to Viva 1300 owners, broadened the range. At that stage, the 1584cc Cavalier and the 1897cc which had joined it were still being imported from Belgium, but in due course these, too, started to emerge from the Luton production plant. The commencement of Cavalier production in the UK also helped ensure that supply for the car met demand, and consequently its sales figures increased, so it was now a constant presence in the top 10 best-selling cars in Britain.